So when it comes to the court system, this is for anyone who wants to answer, not specific to one person. When it comes to the court system, whether county, state, or federal, what is the connection to voting? What connections have you seen, do you see, should be or should not be, right? When it comes to the court system, what is the connection to voting and elections?
Well,
And this is a very broad question on purpose.
okay, 80,000 feet, you elect the judges, the district attorney who brings the charges. You elect the mayors who appoint the police chiefs. So it all comes, you're in the middle, and it all branches out. So the connection to voting is that you put those people there. And if you didn't vote at all, you put those people there because you gave up your vote. And so other folks voted for them, but you didn't vote, so. But that's the connection to voting.
Anyone else?
Yeah, voting is part of everything. When you get married, the person who marries you is somebody who's an elected official. When you are sentenced to jail, that's by the judge, who is an elected official. The sheriff, they report to the commissioners, and every last commissioner is an elected official. So these are the people that you put, that you're voting for. And it's so important because if they're bad, you have the opportunity to get them out of office. And so that's the importance of voting.
Last year, when we finally, or was it this? No, it was last year. We finally got to vote for CD 18, the race that would just never end. So finally, we get a date. Y'all's governor put it in November on purpose. Y'all's governor, not my governor. And so it ended up being, Election Day ended up being on a day where we also had significant weather here. So my organization, Houston Justice and Pure Justice, were plaintiffs in a lawsuit to sue the county to give us more days of early vote to compensate for the days that we had missed, and we were successful. But that's just one example that I can think of.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I had the privilege of working for Ed Gonzalez as a contract lawyer, and I didn't know until I started working for him that one of the largest healthcare organizations in the county is the county jail. And it is that way because the county jail contracts with Harris Health and the Harris Center to provide medical services for incarcerated persons. We fortunately have a sheriff who is invested in seeing rehabilitation work take place in the jail space. That's affected by the fact that we have Ed Gonzalez in that position and that he's concerned about making sure that people in custody have proper health care and proper rehabilitative services. And so he does a whole lot to bring people into the jail to ensure that when they get out, they're not going to recidivate or repeat their criminal activity and end up right back in jail. Let's move on to the judiciary for just 1 second. Judges are elected in certain positions, but one of the things that judges can do is convict a person based on the opinion of the prosecution and the defense of a felony, which eradicates a person's ability to vote until such time as they are released from the penalties of being a convicted felon. At the federal level, without going too deep into it, judges are appointed, some for a period of time, some for a lifetime, all by the President of the United States with the advice and consent of the Senate, and more importantly, the senator in that state. There are 2 in each state, and the way that it typically works is one senator gets to make a choice of judge or U.S. attorney, and then the next one does. And that's how that favor is played off of one another. But those things matter because if you've got Democratic senators, then you're more likely to get Democratic judges. If you have Republican senators, you're more likely to get Republican judges. If you have far-right senators, then you're probably going to get far-right judges. appointed on those federal benches. And the same goes for local elections. You've got to run to your base. And if you're running to a very far right or far left base, and the people are voting for that, then that's what you're going to get. So retail politics affects large-scale decisions and very localized decisions every single day. The most powerful judge most of us will ever meet is in a traffic ticket court. And as we said earlier, those are appointed by a mayor and a city council in some cases. And that's why you want to make sure that you have representation that you agree with at those levels.
Thank you. So, you mentioned something, Judge, and I kind of want to piggyback and park here for a second. It's oftentimes stated that the judiciary is supposed to be apolitical, right? How do we navigate the realities of the complexities of the political system with the judiciary? Let me be more specific for my audience, how do we, or can we even, trust that judges are going to be on the law and not on the side of partisan politics?
You can't. The reality is that people come into every position with preconceived notions of who others are, with biases based on how they were raised, their lived experiences. That's just a function of the human existence. We all try to follow the law as we view it, but there are appellate courts who will then come back and say, well, you followed it, but you were wrong. And then there's an appellate court that court can be appealed to. The Supreme Court, or in criminal cases, the Court of Criminal Appeals here in Texas, and they can reverse decisions. And then there's other courts those decisions can be appealed to. And of course, if we don't agree with a decision, then we're going to say that those people are bought out for the other side. The reality that I've found in doing this work is that it's much more subtle than that. People come to the bench with a worldview, and they exact that worldview on the cases that come in front of them. And so it's very important, I think, that we look at a person's worldview writ large, in total, as opposed to just what they say they represent as a function of party.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah, I'd like to, I'm gonna bring it home to you. I used to be a court-appointed special advocate for abused and neglected children. And we were a voice for the child. Those judges are in typically family courts or county courts at law. And how do you know, as he says, they come with a worldview. I was advocating for a child one time, and the judge kept mispronouncing the child's name. And I corrected the judge. I said, Your Honor, her name is pronounced. The little girl's name was Sade, spelled like S-A-D-E. And the judge kept saying Sadie. I said, her name is Sade. Well, it says here, and so you're not going to get adversarial with the judge. Okay, that I'm the one that would lose in that, and Sade would have lost in that situation. But what did we learn from that? A judge who does not respect the pronunciation of a child's name, will that judge respect any of your rights? Remember, there was an old civil rights case where the Chief Justice said, a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. So when people bring their lived experiences, look at it for more than up here. Bringing it close to what my grandfather said, don't look at what somebody says, look at what they do. And when you are going to vote for a judge, look at their rulings, their cases. And, you know, if you have time, go sit in the back of their court and look at how they interact.
Thank you so much.
Can I just,
Yes, Doc, go ahead.
people who go to court and they're trying to, go ahead, I'm sorry. Every now and then things come and they go, and it just went, so it'll come back.
Okay, no worries, Doc. So, yes, please, absolutely.
So we go into the courtrooms and we would watch people who have been facing allegations, their families. We would watch the whole thing, and we would watch the behaviors of the judges as well, right? Some of the judges, you can come in and you can see like their demeanor, like they were there, they cared, they were open. But then you had some judges that actually felt like this person did this crime and I'm going to sentence them to the max. And it's important to know that because sometimes when they go into different spaces, they're trying to put the perception out there that they're so progressive that, you know, we're for the people, for the community, we're open, you know, we don't do any of that. But when you go into their courtrooms, they're sentencing people to like 10 years for just possession and things like that. So I think it's important for us to see the names on the ballot, get to know who these people are, go to some of the, you know, community events where they are, and just vote according to that. Vote on their behaviors and their conduct inside the courtroom.
Thank you so much. Got it done.
Yeah, we have to watch, we have to observe sitting judges and what they're doing. Because I watched the latest, when they were vetting Supreme Court judges, they asked specific questions. What's your opinion on Roe? Will you try to overturn Roe? Oh, no, we think Roe is it. They will lie.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen with the last 3 appointments. Well, not the last 3, because Ketanji Brown is not part of that, but them other ones, them white folks lied that they would support Roe, and they didn't. First thing they did was to come in and overturn Roe. So we have to be real careful of what they say, because they lied, and now the Democrats are saying, well, we're going to start looking at that, and when you tell us something in the Senate, and we see you doing something else, we're going to hold you accountable for it. So they're trying, people are recognizing that. But when we talk about the criminal justice system, we have to observe the people that we're going to be putting in. And once we put them in, we have to be vigilant enough to observe what they're doing and report it. Right. And that's why I think social media is going to really help, because if we can start getting some of our high schoolers, juniors and seniors, and college kids to go into the courtroom and just sit there and see what's going on and then report it. Just put it back right out there, that I saw this today. I saw this guy get 10 years for possession of some weed. We have to be vigilant, and it is incumbent upon every one of us to be vigilant now. It's not that we can sit around and, I'd like to say I ain't marching no more. I marched in '63 and I was in Selma. And I was just, but I want to say that, but I can't. Because I see things that are happening right now that were the same kinds of things that we were fighting for in the '60s. And so I'm not telling you stuff that I've read. I'm talking about my lived experiences. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. And in keeping in conversation, wonderful input from everyone. To keep in conversation with court cases and acting, things that are going on. We know our dear young brother Carmelo Anthony has taken a hit that the law student was studying, you know, for decades to come. And so, what are some consequential lessons in that case that we should consider as related to the role that elections play in trial? We kind of started on the conversation a little bit, segued into it, but specifically, what have you noticed? What have you seen that you follow that we need to earmark as a community and make sure that we don't, any unfortunate event that one of our brothers and sisters are in the same position, that we don't duplicate or allow that to happen again.
Something my mom used to say was, it's so easy to get into trouble, but so hard to get out of, right? And how one decision could just alter your life altogether. And so, and then we also don't have that privilege of being able to say, oh, it was self-defense and we're believed. Or even like stand your ground, right? It's like that just does not happen. We don't get to claim that, right? But everybody else does. And so I think that is something like that's a consequence that we need to be, vigilant about, is that like even though these things are happening to us, the people who are picked for these juries, which are registered voters, which are people who have driver's license, they're going to be the ones that are going to be deciding whether or not was it self-defense, did you stand your ground, and that's all left up to them. Thank you.
Back in 2015, no, actually it was 2014. This was after we saw the nation light up because of what happened in Ferguson. Remember that? And Mike Brown, absolutely. And one of the most fascinating parts about that was after the no bill, we're now seeing bits and pieces from the transcripts of what happened in the grand jury. And so my curiosity was piqued. It's like, well, what is a grand jury? It's not the jury. It's not a pettit jury, which is what you get when you get jury duty. It's a totally different body. I would later come to find out that in Texas, if that case had happened, there would be no transcripts to read from because they're sealed.
That's right.
So then I started diving a bit deeper. How are these grand jurors chosen, right?
Yes.
So then I learned about what they call the key man system,
Right.
where the judge says, hey, Miss Gaskins, go out there and round me up a grand jury. So you have the friends of judges within the network going and choosing essentially who would end up on the grand jury. And so we put boots on the ground. We first said, how are these selections made and what's the criteria? Well, one of the first things we saw was that in order to participate in a grand jury, to be chosen, you have to be willing to go hours per day, 2 or 3 times per week for like 8-10 weeks at a time. What group of people, what income level, what level of privilege must one hold in order to even be considered? If you work second shift at Target, they're not letting you off to go do that. If you teach math at Yates High School, they're not going to let you off to go do that. So who are these people? So what we did was, we pushed back and they said, well, there's an application process. Anyone can apply. Well, the application at the time was on paper, and it had to be notarized, and it had to be turned in 2015. So we ended up teaming up with different churches and different civic organizations. We were at Wheeler, we were at Holman, and we were given a little bit of time to say, if you are a retired teacher, if you're a retired postal worker, this is for you. Sign up. And we called it Race to 1,000. Our theory was, if we found 1,000 people, had all our ducks in a row, had it all notarized, and if you Google it, you'll see us going with those papers all at once. The look on that lady's face. She got on the phone. She was like, because they had never dealt with that before, right? And then we let them know, everyone who signed up, we have their info. And we told them to let us know if they're contacted, right? So if you don't use from this pool, we'll know. That ended up leading to some changes, but there's still so much more to be done. Not only is there so much more to be done, this stuff is complex and hidden and mystified on purpose, by design. They don't want us to know these things. That's when you look at what's happening with HISD and this NES thing, right, where the teachers are supposed to teach from slides, right? They don't want us to know these things, to truly understand these things, because if we did, we would know how to address them, how to change them, and how to hold them accountable. So what that does then is puts in an additional layer of responsibility on us to go out there and get it and to go out there and do it, even if it's not easily within reach.
And the county commissioners are the ones who solicit.
Mm-hmm.
And you vote for the county commissioners. Okay?
So let's remember, we're tying everything back to elections and voting, right? With criminal justice being the thread in that knot, right? And so let's park at jury duty. What's up with jury duty? Why? Where is the disconnection? What have you guys seen and dealt with?
Because
as
people
relates to jury
don't
duty?
want, they view jury duty as, oh my God, I got a summons. This is your responsibility. This is your civic responsibility. And I invite you to think of this. If you are protesting a ticket that you think you got unfairly, and you want to take it to traffic court, which has a jury, don't you want some people on that jury who are fair-minded, open-minded, and look like you, maybe? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Go serve your jury duty, because it is your responsibility as a citizen. And jury duty, juries are picked from registered voters, people who have driver's licenses, the clerk, I think it's the district clerk, is the one who manages that process. And, so when you get that summons, don't say, and go up there and try to give an excuse. Make up some stuff, tell a lie and get out of it. Do your duty. Most of them get dismissed anyway, so, and you'll get $5 or $10 or however much it is.
So, yeah, my experience on the bench is different than it didn't go away. I'm just trying to figure out how to say it in a way that's not offensive. Okay, family.
Yeah.
Wish he weren't holding that camera up.
Say it.
Let me say it. I could eliminate every black person in this room from a jury with a question. Just by asking you, how many of you feel as though you could sit in judgment of another person? Now, everybody in here, well, no, the Bible says, judge not, lest ye be judged by the... That's not what it says in the context of the criminal justice system. Your job as a juror is not to judge the morality of the person. It's to determine whether or not the allegations as brought amount to a violation of the law as written. And so I appreciate what I heard earlier about some of the stuff is hidden and they don't want us to... They have nothing to do with it. The books contain the law, read it. If you read it and you know it, then you can fight for it. And you can fight against those who would deny you the privileges of it. I would so often sit in that seat on that bench and listen to my people exclude themselves from being on juries where black defendants were charged with crimes. And it would frustrate me. Because I can't put my finger on the scale and make it so that the black people don't exclude themselves, but repeatedly they would do it, and it would just drive me nuts. And the questions that were being asked, can you sit in judgment of another person? No, I can't do that. Objection, judge, the prosecutor would say, they can't sit in judgment of another person. Sustained. Now, I didn't hear defense lawyers raising the issue that that's not what we're asking them to do.
Right.
That's an invalid objection. And so, one, we need to educate our people about the way to answer questions when they're in front of lawyers being asked, can you be fair? Here's the answer to that question. Put this on your social media. Yes, I can be fair. That's it. No more. Can you be fair? Yes. Will you follow the law? Yes. Now, here's the problem. Sometimes the law says you get 10 years for having cocaine or marijuana, depending upon the number of priors that you have. Just say yes. You can work the rest of it out later. I'm not telling you to lie. like I've heard some people have done in front of Congress when trying to get approved to be on the floor.
Yes.
I'm saying keep your mind open to being fair. Death penalty cases. Death penalty juries have to be death qualified,
Right.
meaning that you must be willing to kill another human being to get on. You can't be on a death penalty jury if you will not assess the death penalty. So if you sit there and say, no, I can't take another person's life, I'll never ever consider it. You will never be on that person's jury. And if he is a young African-American man charged with stabbing someone in the bleachers because he thought his life was in danger because there were 25 other people there that could have done him grievous bodily injury, you're out. And now we've got people wondering, well, why was there an all-white jury? And why were all of the blacks excluded? They excluded themselves.
I need, please take the nuggets of wisdom from a practitioner right now, right? Please, go and duplicate what you just heard to your communities, right? To your spheres of influence, to your young people. Someone who sat on the bench, right? Who oversaw the problem, who's overseeing the process, and that's it. Yes, ma'am.
And I can also bring a perspective of somebody that was chosen, because when we get the jury summons, right, we get the summons to show up. I take that with extreme pride, because I feel like this is my chance to show up and participate in a court case where somebody felt like they did not want to take a plea.
Right.
They did not want to go with what the judge was offering or what the prosecution was having, so he said, let's take it to trial. And so this is our time to maybe show up and, you know, be supportive, or just try to say that we're going to show up, we're going to be fair, we're going to do all the things. But when that jury selection process is happening, you can't say that. Because they're going to be like, oh, you're for justice, you're for this, we can't have you on there. So you have to go in and you have to be like you're in the middle. Or you're going to be able to be fair and to hold this person accountable with the punishment. Oh, yeah, I absolutely be able to be fair. Will you be able to do these things? And you just, you know, you have to say yes. And then you will get chosen. But this is so important, because when you look at the juries, you don't see a lot of us, because sometimes people feel like, I can't take off work. They say I can, but then they might try to hold it against you. You know, I have other things I have to do. I have a child that has autism. You know, what kind of exemptions are there? And then sometimes people don't want to do it, but when you are in the courtrooms and you see those people come out and they're looking around, they're looking to see those faces. Like, who looks familiar in here? And if they walk out and they look at the jury and they're like, oh, we're screwed. You know, and that happens.
Let me, can I interject something? Because you said something that is true, sort of. And I want to make it plain, none of you will ever be selected to sit on a jury. None of you will ever be picked to sit on a jury. You will be eliminated from consideration for jury service, because that's how jury selection works everywhere. It's about elimination. So you're not picked based on what you say, you're eliminated because of what you say. And it's the first 12 leftovers who get to serve, or the first 6 leftovers. There are 2 types of challenges. One for cause, or because you can't follow the law, so you must always be able to follow the law. And the other is for peremptory reasons, or to preempt you from sitting on the jury because they don't like you. Now, if you're not one of the leftovers, you have rights. You have a right to sit on a jury. If you have answered every question appropriately, I can follow the law. I will do what the law says. I don't need to hear from both sides. I know the state has the burden of proof. I don't need to hear from the defendant. Even though you may want to, the defense doesn't have to testify. That's the Fifth Amendment, right? And the prosecutor will be the one asking you that question. Why? Because they want to eliminate you. They don't care about you. You showed up in a way that is antithetical to their interests. And so you want to be careful about what you. So you want to you want to make sure that you answer those questions correctly. And if you are struck from a jury, your name isn't called, and you've answered all of the questions correctly, you have the right to object as a citizen to being excluded under Batson versus Kentucky. You have an individual right to say, Judge, I'm sorry, may I speak with you? What's going on? I was eliminated, and I didn't say anything, to my opinion, that justified me being eliminated. They don't know it. They don't know it. And so we sit there and we watch them knock us off jury duty. When we can stand up and say, you ain't gonna knock me off this one. And here's what they will say. Well, they just responded more positively to them than they did to me. They didn't respond positive. They had their arms crossed, this sort of thing. At which point you can say, well, I was cold. And so I was covering up so that I wouldn't shiver. Several other people had their arms crossed as well. Mrs. Jones did, and she's white. Mr. Johnson did, and he's white. Because the record doesn't show what color anybody is, unless you say it. So say it. Say it. My apologies. I get upset about this.
I was just going to reiterate what Ms. Joy said about when someone walks in the courtroom and just seeing a familiar face, you know, based off the color of our skin. Just reminding everybody the importance of serving on the jury duty, because this is one of the few times we as ordinary people have the chance to actually serve on in the justice system as far as decisions. And so I take it seriously. I'm never picked. I just learned something new about speaking with a judge. So next time I'm going to do that. But again, the importance of jury duty and serving our community, because it's not just, you know, necessarily the people sitting right in front of us, it's those who are being tried. So, yeah, just a reminder.